What's going on, guys? It's Danny here, and this is going to be a video about talents for PvP for Shadow Priest in TBC Classic. I have 3 or 4 different talents I would like to share and just go over each talent real quick and explain the choice and when or where I will use each spec. I will have links to the specs in the description of the video, of course, or at least a few of them, and then all the other little adjustments and changes you can see them in this video. So this first one I'm gonna leave it as generally best early TBC. For BG's Arena, it has mental agility, so that means it's more mana efficient. At the beginning of TBC there is a big struggle for mana, just like at the beginning of Classic when I was doing rank 14. I played with mental agility, but after that I dropped it completely once I got the insane gear. So I'll just go through the talents real quick and then show the other specs as well. Blackout, pretty obvious. Blackout is OP. Spirit Tap is for farming and for PvE. Shadow Affinity doesn't do anything in PvP. Improve Shadow Word Pain, always. Shadow Focus 5 out of 5. It basically does not act like a spell penetration kind of thing, but what it helps with is it counters talents like Unbreakable Will. Basically, if I have 10% extra reduced chance of my target to resist my shadow spells, and I'm fighting a priest and this gives the priest 15%, that means that priest against me has 5% from Unbreakable Will. Pretty sure warriors have a talent that increases their resistance to a stun, and my blackout is a stun that can be resisted, so this counters that. Also, it's a really big one with the other priest with silence. Not resisting as many silences against other priests is just huge. On the TBC beta I played with only 2 or 3 points of shadow focus, and definitely I felt like other priests were resisting more silences. Unless it was like 2-3 days of really bad RNG in a row, but there is no way. RNG is not always bad or not always good. Mind Flay always, obviously, but improved Mind Blast is either 1 or 4 points for PvE, just to fit it in a specific rotation. For PvP it's fine with 0. Fear, of course, always. Nodine improved Fade in PvP. Shadow Reach always. Shadow Weaving 5 out of 5, yeah. When playing against people with friendly Dispel, Shadow Weaving is a really good cover. Sometimes people dispel a Shadow Weaving stack instead of my Vampiric Touch, so I always want to make sure everything I cast has a Shadow Weaving stack together with it. Silence, Vampiric Embrace, of course. Improved Vampiric Embrace is pretty big. The more passive free healing the better. Focused Mind helps with mana efficiency. Shadow Resilience reduces the chance I'll be critically hit by all spells specifically. It's nice, but I'll talk about it in a minute. Darkness always 5. Shadow Form, of course. Shadow Power is an interesting one. In PvE I take it always, but in PvP it really feels like a luxury, to call it in a way. It's like, yeah, nice, I'll take it if I could, but the talent points are much better spent somewhere else. Because even if I had 5 here, it's still 15% extra chance to crit Mind Blast and Shower Death. It's not like I will crit every second Mind Blast. Who knows if I will be even casting Mind Blast. And when I see people take this one for PvP, some of them sacrifice a point here, or most of the time some sacrifice on Misery. I think about it this way. This is RNG. On maybe sometimes I will crit more and do a bit more damage that probably won't even make a difference, because people have resilience, and resilience reduces the critical damage you take, and Mind Blast doesn't scale very well with crit anyway. You know, it's not like Mind Blast no crit 1k, Mind Blast crit 2k. Mage's critical scales that way. For Mind Blast, if it crits, it's a little bit more than the normal damage, right? Increase the critical chance by 15%. People have resilience to decrease to be critically hit by 10%. I think that's enough reasons mentioned to not have this. And here I'm speaking about like optimal spec, right? I have played with it, and you can play with it, and it's fun when you do crit, especially if you land both Mind Blast and Shower Death and they both crit. It's 50% of someone's HP. For fun you can do whatever, right? And in the meantime, all 5 on Misery just gives the debuff is always there. It's always 5% for all your damage. And Vampiric Touch, of course. Then we have 5 on Unbreakable Will. So next, I always take Improved Shield and Inner Focus. But these 4 talents, Improved Fortitude, Martyrdom, Meditation and Absolution, this is where it becomes more interesting, more debatable, more personal preference sometimes. So real quick, I'm just gonna reset the Discipline tree and get 5 on Will, 3 on Shield. And Martyrdom is an insanely good talent, right, for PvP? With 2 points, it's 100%. Every time I get crit by melee or ranged crit, it will proc. And when this procs, I will have no pushback when taking damage when I cast something. And also this same buff increases my chance to resist an interrupt by 20%. In Classic, for example, I always played with 2 on Martyrdom. But at the same time it's just 20%. So I think for the start of TBC I'm leaning more towards leaving 1 point on Martyrdom and have 1 on improved stamina. But there is a lot of dispelling going on in PvP, right? Even mages now have spell steal. So if it gets dispelled, at least I didn't commit 2 points. And when it doesn't get dispelled, it's nice to have a bit of extra stamina, especially this early with the struggle of resilience and stamina and tankiness. And then I'll have Martyrdom still proccing 50% of the time, so every second crit I take. And now take Inner Focus. Especially if you're an undead, most of your Inner Focus uses will be with Devouring Plague. Otherwise Devouring Plague consumes too much mana. If I'm not an undead, I'll use it on a second highest mana cost ability, something like shielding myself, or another good one is a max rank greater heal. It costs a lot of mana and you can even have it crit you with Inner Focus and top you to full HP. Or offensively on a Mind Blast. Mind Blast has a decent amount of mana cost, and if it crits it's even better. And now Absolution and Meditation, they are talents that help with mana. I looked around if there are other videos on YouTube or some websites. I'm pretty sure I saw more people maxing on Meditation before Absolution, but to be honest I personally feel like Meditation is a PvE talent for the most part. In PvE you are always there casting, but in PvP as a Shadow Priest you will be getting trained a lot, focused. Your fear is an absolutely game-winning CC, so a lot of the times you will be moving towards your enemy. With pre-season 1, the High Warlord Blue Gear on the TBC beta, we were also squishy. Some arenas for me as a Shadow Priest consisted of just Shadow Word Pain, 1 Vampiric Touch cast, and then it was a lot of Dispel spam. And ideally I get the opportunity to cast a Mind Blast together with Shadow Word Death to finish off a target. So I personally am gonna go at the start with 1 point on Meditation and get 3 on Absolution. And if I change my mind I can just swap back to Meditation. And if you are really unsure on what to do, you could just 2 and 2, Absolution and Meditation. Okay, so at the end, after the commentary in this video, and thinking again, I will go with this one. I will go back to the good old classic 2 on Martyrdom. And another thing is, imagine you do intend to fake cast, but the enemy interrupts early and he gets you anyway. But you resist that interrupt because of this extra 20% chance. That would be nice. And then we get 5 on Mental Agility. It's just due to the low mana pool and high cost of spells. Mental Agility is just necessary early. I played on the TBC beta without Mental Agility, I was running too fast. Especially sometimes you go in and out of Shadow Form during combat even, and Shadow Form costs a lot. And all the other instants that you do like Prayer of Mending, Renew, Shield, or maybe for Season 2 not 5 out of 5 at least, but 3, something like that. And Season 3 and after, I think this might not even need any points. And here is the second spec, it's the more tanky spec. I played it on the TBC beta and it felt good, but I was running too fast. So this for sure becomes a way better spec. In Season 3 for example, when the mana is looking better, instead of 5 on Mental Agility, this has improved Inner Fire 3 and 2 on Healing Focus. Now if I don't get crit to proc this from physical damage, I will still not be getting much pushback during a heal. Because one big problem to heal myself to survive is even if I do fake cast their interrupt, I still can't finish a heal a lot of the times because of pushback from auto attacks and abilities. And in Shadow, instead of 3 on Focus Mind, it has 1, and then I took Shadow Resilience. On top of having the needed amount of resilience in Season 3, Shadow Resilience helps even more against casters. Inner Fire is a bit debatable one, some people like it, some don't. The math on it was something like 2.2% extra physical damage reduction, but also an argument can be that it gets dispelled a lot of the times. You basically need perfect uptime on Inner Fire to benefit from this talent, right? I personally like this talent and I always try to have Inner Fire up, but if I change my mind and if you don't like it, these 3 talents can be spent somewhere else very well as well. There is just so many options, guys. I hope that this is not really confusing but helpful. And don't overthink too much and get like a headache like I do sometimes. Either way, the best thing to get out of a guide is to think why certain things were chosen and not just blindly copy paste. And that's why I'm also doing it this way, in depth, with detailed explanation on things, so you can understand my thought process behind it. Remember that in the description of the video and probably in the comments too, I could put it. I will have links to these finished specs. The third spec is the Silent Resolve spec. And basically to get Silent Resolve I don't have any on Mental Agility, so it leads again to having mana problems early TBC. So this spec seems like it will work better later on, Season 3 let's say. Early on Silent Resolve feels like a luxury, just like Shadow Power. It sounds more standard for Discipline Priest to have Silent Resolve, because Discipline Priest has also PI, you have PS, and you combine PS together with this and it's a total of 85% resistance to Dispel mechanics for 8 seconds with PS. I like the idea of Silent Resolve for Shadow as well, of course. This affects all spells, so my dots that I put on people too, and my own buffs, etc, etc. I feel like it's really good when you play with Mage though, for example, or with a Warlock as well maybe, right? Like the Mage stacks a lot of debuffs on the target as well, and you stack your Shadow Weaving, and then your Mage Novas a target, and if someone tries to dispel that Nova, they could be going through 2 of my debuffs, but it gets resisted because of Silent Resolve. And last but not least, in Classic, I used to love doing something that's called a hybrid spec. I'm not talking about discipline talents in this video, it's Shadow, but this is like also kind of Shadow, this is hybrid. I like talents like this. Because remember, I mentioned it in the gear video as well, you're a priest, you don't just tunnel with dot damage, let the warlocks do that. You can do so much more than damage. And this spec basically lacks defensives and survivability. I'm not full discipline to have pain suppression to survive there. I'm not full shadow either to have shadow form and have the 15% physical reduction. So others have to protect me a lot. Basically, for battlegrounds, this hybrid spec for battlegrounds is gonna do wonders, I think, on classic release. I think I might try this one on release to farm the high warlord gear. With this one, you're pretty much like a dispeller mostly, silencer, absolute mana burner machine, and utility. And your stats are crazy because you have mental strength, more mana, 10%, and you have 3 points here for 3% more intellect and stamina. So your mana pool is big here. You have all the instant casts efficiencies like mental agi, absolution. Don't forget to heal your teammates though. Greater Heal is not gonna be casted fast because there is no Divine Fury. If I went to Divine Fury or Holy Nova, that would have been a tri-spec. I haven't thought of like a good tri-spec, but I would imagine sacrificing from here, this discipline, to go down deeper in here instead. Right? And then, let's say, right? Tri-spec. Silence, Mana Burn, Holy Nova. Oh, okay, accidentally I guess I made it. This doesn't sound too bad. So I guess this is a theory crafted tri-spec. But my main idea was for the hybrid spec, which is 2 specs and just healing focus. Look at this one, focused power makes your mass dispel only half a second cast. You silence casters and healers. You dot people too, and you can do blackout stuns with it. You bring your battleground team a spirit buff. PI in TBC it's different from Classic. In Classic it gives spell damage and healing, but in TBC it's purely haste. So something I love to do and something that's pretty OP when priests do in TBC. PI yourself, mana burn, and you just punish people in a really bad position. PI becomes a lot more selfish thing, by the way. You don't have to necessarily buff teammates, you can just buff yourself and mana burn. It's insane. And flash heal would be probably the best way to heal in this spec, but you would have other people that are dedicated healers. If I was to join a pre-made, for example, I would definitely let them know that I'm not like main healer. I am more of a utility type of spec, but I do heal too. And one last thing, some people wonder if there is or they want to make a spec for PvP and PvE without respeccing. And sure you can, but I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. There is this spec I thought of, and the upside of it is that it's good for both, but not ideal for either one. Because one important thing in TBC and expansions after that, every spec becomes more like polished full spec. Compared to Classic, we have a couple of additional talents inside of each spec, and those new talents are good and we do take them, like Shadow Power and Vampiric Touch. That's where people begin to call even a specific spec a class. Some people call Shadow Priest a class sometimes, and it's kinda weird to me, but Or I guess if you don't care about the PvP part that much, let's say you play arena just to cap the arena points and some BGs to get the rest of the resilience gear. You don't have to be the most mana efficient possible, so you could take out mental agility and put the amount needed on improved mind blast, let's say 4, so you can at least do your perfect rotations. And if you're the only priest in a 10-man raid, get fortitude. Otherwise, maybe just one random point on shadow power. It's gonna feel so underwhelming, but now at least here we have everything for PvE except a max shadow power, which won't matter much unless you are trying to be competitive. Always push your DPS and try to speedrun and etc, etc. All the other PvE talents are here. And you still keep the must-haves in every single PvP spec for shadow. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the talents video. I covered everything I wanted to cover. Here we are at the outro screen that it's blurry, and here I put links to other videos. Here I'll put videos like this one, other guide type of videos I made for gearing. So yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitch, sub here to the YouTube channel, and have a nice day.